I'm like totally fascinated by, like I said, your world and what you created for yourself. Kind of how you, I know you've told me some of the stories of how you got into horses and all, but it's almost like I want to understand like what the urge you had to, what started you, what was that moment where you're like, I have to do this, and that created that step by step building of what you created for your life. And you're kind of in the middle of nowhere on your own, right? Or am I right?
Yeah.
And you are like living this incredible life really, and I'm fascinated by it, and I just want to understand how your strengths and your abilities, how you developed all of those things, what brought such strong desire, and I just would love for you to start just to talk if that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. Thank you, Cindy. So I have written a book. It's called Horse Constellations, and it basically describes my journey and how I got to where I am now. Because a lot of people want to know how I did it and exactly what you asked me. So I did write about it. So as a little plug there, it's on my
Oh,
website.
absolutely. I'll get
But
that.
but yeah, I don't know how far back to go, but I'm originally from UK, and I left London in '85, and I lived in New York City for about 8 years, and from New York City, I moved to Venice Beach, California, and, at that time, when I left London, I was a musician and an independent musician, and, I was very discouraged with England at the time. It was post-punk period. It was, pretty abysmal, to say the least. There was a lot the crunch for me to leave was everyone I knew was doing heroin, like everybody,
Wow.
and, you just could not hang on to any belongings. I mean, they would just get stolen all the time, and London was very polluted, toxic, like fumes. I mean, I was living in a squat. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but it's a place. It was a school, so it was an abandoned school in the middle of London, and if you get in there, break in, and put a lock on, you can basically live there. And I don't think they have that anymore. It was because of the war when the Blitz happened, and there were so many homeless people, and there were lots of vacant residences. So they
Yeah.
basically said if you can find a residence and move in and basically put a lock on it, then you can stay there. And
Wow.
and then they work out something with you where you pay the rates. So you basically paying for the rates and you maintaining the building or whatever. So there was a lot of us in this one huge school in Hammersmith, and it was literally next door to the Dole office. So everybody was unemployed because at that time it was when Thatcher was in, or right before. There were no jobs. There was none. I mean, the only job I was looking at that was near me was cleaning the toilets in Kentucky Fried Chicken, and there was a waiting list to get that job. You know,
Oh my god.
yeah, it was bad. So everybody was signing on. They call it signing on, basically getting welfare. And it was right next to our school house. We each had I had a huge classroom. I mean, it was incredible. It was built in the 30s. It was like Art Deco. And originally the ceiling was all glass. I mean, it wasn't when I moved in, but it had this fantastic window at the front that overlooked the train station, the tube train, which was above ground. And there was a lot of trees, and even though you wouldn't think in the middle of London, I mean, there was trees and bushes. There was some kind of nature, and we had goats and chickens. We actually got like a rescued goat that had been really horribly abused, and we had a goat there, and we had chickens and stuff. in the middle of London on this main
Oh,
road. And I lived in a classroom, and everybody that so it was a huge space, and everybody that lived there was an artist or a musician, and there was about 20 people that lived there. I think it was 3 stories high. I mean, it was a big place. And when I first moved in there, it was great. They used to do every Friday they'd have a soiree and they'd have a theme, and they used to go to the BBC, which was quite near there, and go through their trash and find the scripts. And then we would do a soiree. So one of them was Z Cars, which was like a police show, you know. And then they would do a Wild West one, and then everyone would play music. Right, it was really really fun, like fun because everyone was so creative and resourceful. But then, gradually, heroin, which they called it smack, that was the name of it, and it was very cheap and highly addictive. And gradually, everybody just started getting on that because I tell you, it's pretty depressing. It was pretty depressing time, especially if you're younger, like to have no sense of hope for your future. Like if you're unemployed for 2 years, they basically categorize you as unemployable. Like you're never going to get a job. Like that's your category. So socially, you're the leech of the leech, the lowest of the low. That's
wow.
how you're looked upon, right? So it's huge division between classes in England. And but having that free time enabled me to learn music. I learned how to play bass. I wrote songs. Was I had a partner who was incredibly talented, and he would go to each room in that schoolhouse and say, "Hey, do you want to lay down a track here?" And he had an old 2-track, which I don't know if you remember that, but that was before. Um, that's how he used to record on this 2-track. It was tape, and he would carry that from room to room. Hey, you want to lay down some bass here? Hey, can you put some vocals on this or guitar? And he put together a cassette tape because we sold them as cassettes back then, called Amos and Sarah Sing the Private Life of Amos. And I was about 19 then, 18 or 19. And I think I wrote my first song on that, which was called Hellbed. And that we sold 500 of these tapes
Wow.
just from, yeah, we used to copy them. You had the double cassette players where you copy one from the other. You had the master one, you copy it onto the next cassette one. We cut out the covers from National Geographic magazines, like old ones. So every cover was different. And based on that cassette, we got tours in Europe. So we toured France, Germany, so we went to Sweden. We were played in Switzerland quite a few times. I mean, we weren't making really any money, but we got hosted. They took really good care of us wherever we went. We played in like really crazy places, like a place in Zurich that was a squat that had a club in the basement, and we played there for a couple of nights. It was really great. Like that was kind of fun times. But like I said, then you know, uh, when that wasn't happening, that was a big kind of high, like really all this creative energy and playing live and stuff was really fun. But then, when you get home, it's back to this really depressing, living on pretty much nothing and, everything getting stolen. I remember everything I bought that like an 8 millimeter camera got stolen, like anything nice that I got stolen. And nobody even put toilet roll in the toilet paper in the toilet in the bathroom because people didn't want to spend the money, on that or the light bulb. I mean, I remember there wasn't even a light bulb because nobody wanted to spend the money on that light bulb to put in it.
Wow.
It was that bad. It got pretty bad. So I just thought I got to get out of here. This is really destroying me, and I'm, you know, I mean, if it was now, I'd probably be on meds. I mean, I probably wouldn't because I wouldn't take them anyway, but I would have been a certified depressed person, But a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's go to New York. They love English people there. They love their accent. We can, you can just get work in a restaurant." And And I'm like, "Really? They like" I was like, "They like English people?" And she's like, "Yeah, they do. Trust me, they do. Like, they like your accent." And, because I was so used to, England where you're identified by your class. Do you know that? Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
I I
So
sort of get it, yeah.
yeah, so if you were English, I could tell immediately what class you're from, just by the way that your posture is and the way that you talk and the way you dress, everything about you, I could tell. I could
Yeah.
tell that with you not even speaking. That's how it is in England. So because I
Wow.
mentioned that, being unemployed, being, just, um, even the school system is set up for you to work in a factory. I think you know that's this stuff. I don't know if you know this stuff, but,
So,
uh,
you were in a certain class, your education is
yeah,
very different than
yeah,
you have
yeah.
no chance.
It's public school. So the public school system in England is, set up where I went to school, like, it's ding, 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 and you come in, you sit down, you don't move. You sit there, ding, 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 you get up, you get a break, you come back. The bell tells you what to do. This is the same as a factory, okay?
Yeah,
They're priming you
getting you
for
used to.
working in a factory, okay? Everything about it.
Wow.
Um, so then you go from that to not being able to get a job in a factory, like, and I didn't want to work in a factory anyway. Like, I knew that's what I didn't want to do. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, but then there's no work. I automatically left school and then was on welfare. I'd left home really young. Uh, um, well, that's another story, but I basically went to London when I was 16 by myself. I'd already left home when I was 15, but
Oh.
uh, and then I started. Someone showed me how to play a bass guitar, and I took to it really quickly. And
Oh,
yeah, and then it's very social. I just met a lot of people, and then I ended up at this schoolhouse, like I said, in Hammersmith. But that was the last place I lived before I moved to New York. And it was true. I got a one-way ticket to New York, a courier thing where you paid £50, which is about $75, and you basically, or it was less than that, I think. And then you deliver some papers. I don't know what they were, so you can't take much luggage with you, but you get there. So you get your flight basically paid for.
wow.
I did that, and, I never looked back. As soon as I landed in New York, I was like, "I am never going back. I am never going back there." And I didn't. Well, I went back to type things up, but, I knew as soon as I got there, this is it. This is I feel
So,
so much
yes,
better here.
I would think New York wasn't a whole lot less depressing at that time, but
New York was incredibly exciting because you had the hip hop starting and the rap and all that, and,
ah,
I really liked that music back then. I mean, I was, like, really young, right?
mhm,
It's, Grandmaster Flash and all Furious 4, all that was so exciting to someone in England. It was very depressing. Like, we had all the punk thing, and then after that, it was just like people, the epitome of that is like watching that Sid Vicious movie, where it's just self-destructive, do as much drugs as you can, drink as much as you can, don't take care of yourself at all. I mean, they like that.
yeah,
It's it's not promoting health or well-being at all. It's just
yeah,
like, "You're the scum of the earth, just kill yourself. We don't care.
yeah,
Take
yeah,
drugs. We don't care." Right? So, I go to New York, and I felt like I was in a movie set. I mean, I first thing I bought was a Walkman. I put headphones on, a little Walkman, and, listening to music going down Broadway or wherever it was. It's like a studio set, but the sounds were really, really different, and I was in heaven. I mean, I loved it, and it's true what my friend said, like, people were very friendly to me because they liked the way I spoke, and it was a totally different energy than what I was used to in England, very different. So, of course, I liked that, what's not to like about that?
yeah.
And, I, wanted to pursue a musical career there as a single singer-songwriter, and I met with a lot of obstacles. And it was basically like, well, if you were like Madonna, or if you want to be like Madonna, then we can, do something with you. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be like Madonna. Like, I I just didn't like that kind of pop music, and it's not my thing, right? So I was actually singing lovers rock reggae stuff, which is in London. There's a huge Jamaican influence, and I love that music. I still love it. Um, so that was what I wanted to do, but that wasn't popular at all. Like that wasn't going to happen, you know. So I was super naive and everything like that. But um, I ended up going to a gym because I'd always wanted to work out, but it was very difficult in London to lift weights if you were a woman. You got teased really bad. I got teased really bad. Um, you know, just whatever. It wasn't popular for a woman to lift weights then. And so, but in New York, it was totally different. I went to a gym. I saw this woman. She had striations in her shoulders. You know what striations are?
Mm-mm.
They're like in your skin, the muscle. You see the muscle,
Oh,
and the
the
shape of the muscle.
definition? Yeah.
Yeah, like, but it looks like fingers, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I saw that, and I'd never seen that on a woman, and I was like, I want that. Like, however she did that, I want that. And I became obsessed, and that turned into me competing in bodybuilding competitions in New York, and then New Jersey, Staten Island, all around there. And then I decided to take it very seriously. And I thought, if I'm really going to make this my career, I have to move to Venice Beach, California, because that's where the mecca is. That's where all the pro bodybuilders are, all the people I saw in the magazines. They go to Gold's Gym in Venice Beach. And I'd already been to California and I didn't like it because I didn't drive and I didn't understand LA at all. I didn't understand LA culture, that it's you don't walk anywhere, unless you're in Santa Monica or Venice Beach. But basically, people don't walk, And I'd come from London walking. I came from New York, which is easy to get around, right? Um, and I just didn't understand it, and I didn't, because I thought about moving there, but I was like, no. But then the bodybuilding drew me there, and I got a place that was right next to the gym, basically, so I could go there about 3 times a day, and I got a bicycle, and I just thought like I'll just go around on a bicycle, but I didn't realize how big and spread out LA was. So when I was looking for a job, I realized it's going to take me like 2 hours to cycle there and 2 hours back. Like, forget it. So I was getting jobs in like clubs as a bouncer and stuff. Like there's a place called Tattoos in Beverly Hills. I worked there for not very long. I didn't like it, but I did things like that. Um, and then I was training people at the gym. And anyway, I started competing. I was in the California State twice, which is a really prestigious show. I came second once, and I came fourth, I think, or third. I can't remember. I didn't win it, but I was close. And then to get my pro card, I had to go back to England to compete at Wembley and then win the overall. So it meant I had to win my class, which was heavyweight, and then win the overall. And I did that twice. And the last time I did it was 1996. And I just said, like, if I don't win this, I'm quitting. And I'd already been in it 10 years. And so, of course, I didn't win it. I got fourth place. And it's such a demanding sport that like, I invested everything in it, for not much return, really. Um, and then I realized I was under this huge illusion that there was a career in it for women bodybuilders, but there's not really. I mean, even if you become pro, you still don't make money, really. Like, because you're a freak, you look like a freak. Like, and really what they do is they make fun of you. So the only people that wanted female bodybuilders were like movies that were making fun of you. So when I realized that, I was like, this just horrible. It was horrible because people could say things about bodybuilders, but the amount of discipline that it takes, the discipline is off the chart. Your diet, everything. I mean, you weigh everything. I would test my blood every morning. Like crazy stuff. Like and but then I was like, what am I doing? This is crazy. Like, what am I doing? And I'm not happy. So I realized I wasn't happy because I was going after a goal that not wasn't even didn't really exist, you know. So I quit, and then I had a long time of feeling absolutely depressed. Like, what am I doing with my life? Um, didn't really have any, it was really bad. So, but I remember because I basically lost everything, my relationship, my place. I came back from England, and I had to start all over again. And then I had to, because working out is very addictive. Like, I still went to the gym, and then I got into boxing because I was already doing kickboxing. I'd been doing that for a few years, and I loved it. And I just thought, like, that was when the women boxers were coming out, and I just thought, like, I'll just segue into that because I loved the training. The training was so great. But all it took was me to watch a boxing match between two women, and one get her nose busted in the first round, and the camera's in her face, and I'm like, well, you could like shit your pants, and everybody's looking at you, you know. Um, and I just thought, like, so that, because I really put myself in her position, and I watched on this really big TV screen, and then I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, the reality of it hit home, and I realized too, I don't want to hurt people. Like, it's not really in me. Um, I've I've been in I was in one fight, one woman attacked me in the gym, and I knew she was gonna do it. I had headphones on. I just had this sense that she was gonna do it. It didn't make sense, but she did. And I didn't even, hit her. She's trying to hit me, and I just pinned her down 'cause, I knew a little bit of jujitsu as well, and I just, like, pinned her down, and I got pulled off, and anyway, the point was, I realized I don't wanna hurt people. I don't have it in me, but I can fight, I can defend myself, but I also realized I didn't wanna do that as a career. So, I asked a friend who I knew meditated. He had mentioned it, I didn't know much about it, and I just said, "Hey, like, what can I do? I'll do anything. I just don't wanna feel like this anymore." And he said, "Well, meditate." And I said, "Okay, how do I do that?" He said, "You, breathe in for 1 and breathe out." Oh, no, sorry. Breathe in and breathe out and count your breaths. That was it. Like, count your breaths to 10 breaths, and do that, twice a day. So me, I got to 100. So I was counting my breaths to 100, and then I do it again because I always have to do more, whatever. And then by 2 weeks, I noticed a huge shift, and things were different. And then things started opening up for me, and I started meeting people, and my life completely changed. And I knew it was the meditation that did that. So I continued, and then I got into metaphysics, and I got into healing. I learned about hands-on healing, and all kinds of things, and I found it fascinating. And then one thing that really stood out for me was that we create our own reality, and I'd never heard that. No one had told me that. That was from that channeler Jane. God, I've forgotten her name now. Really famous Seth, the Seth books. I don't know if you know those,
Oh,
but
the lady with the pipe?
ah,
Is that the one with the pipe?
no.
She smokes a pipe. Oh,
Oh,
could be.
yeah, maybe she did. Yeah, she was in upstate New York, and she channels a being called Seth, and he was the one who said that you create your own reality. And uh, it was so no one had told me that. Like, no. So I went from believing that shit just happens to, no, actually we create that shit. Like, And then I thought, okay, so if we create our own reality, I'm going to create the reality I want instead of feeling like I'm a victim of circumstances all the time. So I consciously made decisions about what I wanted. I knew I didn't want to live in Venice anymore. It was really bad. The neighborhood was, there were shootings all the time. Couldn't get to my house sometimes because they would shut down the road. I go to the library and I couldn't get back home because there was a shooting. And so I just wanted to feel safe. I wanted to go outdoors. And someone took me to Topanga, which is in the mountains. And I just thought, this is it. I want to live here. So I ended up living there, and I ended up, long story short, I ended up living next to horses, and got to know the owner. And then uh, she said something quite profound that got my interest, that horses teach you how to be a leader. And I was like, what? I'd never heard that before. So that piqued my interest. I learned how to ride. She taught me how to ride. We would patrol the Santa Monica Mountains, and as volunteers for the ranger and stuff, for fire and stuff. And
Wow.
yeah, and then I was just like I wanted I just loved being around the horse. It didn't matter if I was riding them or not. I just felt better when I was around them, and I was like, okay, I want to spend my time with horses. That's what I want to do. So I wrote a list down of everything that I wanted as far as working outside. I want to walk to work and or ride to work. I want to help people. I want every day to be different. And a couple of weeks later, I was offered a job at this equine therapy ranch, which is at the bottom of my road. That was in a no zone area, meaning that you're not supposed to have a business there, but they did it anyway. It was a non-profit. And I worked there for 7 years. And I learned everything I needed to know about running a horse business. I worked with people with autism, with people with cancer. I worked with school kids, um, homeschool kids. I wrote the curriculums. I mean, I did everything. I took care of the horses. I would, because we got a lot of horses that were donated that had a lot of massive PTSD and lots of physical issues. And so, so I had already studied polarity therapy, and I spent 5 years studying polarity therapy and cranial sacral unwinding. And I just used those skills with horses. So I didn't know much about horses, but I found a way to relate to horses that were really damaged through using the skills that I'd learned in polarity therapy, which is about creating resonance with whoever you're working with, like find the resonance. And it works. And that that was I was already in my 40s then. And I'd had a no pet rule because when I was living at the schoolhouse, I had a cat that I adored, and I had to leave her, and she got run over, and I felt absolutely awful about that. And I told myself, you don't deserve to have an animal, because I always loved animals. So I never allowed myself to have a dog or a cat or anything. And then when I moved to Topanga, everyone's saying, you should get a dog, you should get a cat. And I was like, no, no, no. And then this mouse got in my house and was living there. And I was kind of cool with it, because I don't know, it's kind of cute. It used to come out. It was a field mouse. And then people were saying, you can't have a mouse living in your house. You got to get rid of it. Try this humane trap. I tried that. It didn't work. Try this poison. And I did it. I really didn't want to, but one more bite, it was horrible. And I heard it eating it, but it lived. It still survived. And then someone said, there's a cat that my friend wants to give away. Like, do you want it? And then I was like, well, maybe the cat could get the mouse. So I got the cat, and the cat did get the mouse, and it was absolutely horrendous. And
Oh,
after 2 weeks, and I was felt so guilty because I had an attachment to the mouse.
I can
Um,
totally relate.
yeah, yeah, it was so in my face, and it was right around 9/11. It happened like the day of 9/11, and it was more intense for me than 9/11, like because it was in my house, and the cat had the mouse in its jaws and was showing me, coming towards me, and then it wiggled out, screaming, screaming, you know. And the next day, it ran behind the fridge, and the next day it's on the mat, on the doormat, like dead. And its leg was missing, and I found its leg behind the thing. You know what I mean? All this stuff that's like
Yeah,
on the leg.
yeah, sorry.
So I buried it. I did a burial for it, and but really, what that mouse did for me was it really is why I'm here. I mean, that's what got me to break my no pets rule because I had the no pets rule, right? But I broke it so I could get the cat to deal with the mouse, which it did. And then that opened up a reservoir. Then after that, I thought for my 40th birthday, I'm getting a dog because I've always wanted a dog. And then I got a dog, and then I got the brother of that dog, and then I got another cat, and then I got a horse, and then I got 5 more horses after that, you know.
Wow.
And then here I am. And so, your question about like what was my motivation, like what got me here, it was really the bodybuilding is all pushing like training, very yang energy. It's all exertion. It's all putting out, right? To going in a profession which is actually the opposite, listening. It's all about listening for me. Listening to the horse, observing, listening to the client, feeling everything, opening up all my feeling senses, which I was born with but had shut down. And I think a lot of people have it, but they shut it down because it becomes overwhelming, right? It's a coping mechanism because you can get overwhelmed by everybody's pain. You
Yeah,
know,
how do you deal with that?
well, you master it, so you become the master of it, and that's like healers are very empathic, right? Because that's what makes them good because they know what's going on, they can relate, and but what you do is you become the master of it, and you don't let it rule you, right? And you have to protect yourself. You have like, why do you think I live out here in the middle of nowhere by myself? So I don't want to live around like I don't want to live in Hollywood. I don't want to live in Venice Beach with desperate people who are suffering, but a lot of addicts, right? Like there's I'm not saying they're all addicts. I'm not saying that, but desperate people who uh, are suffering, right? Let's say that, right? In some way or another. Like I feel everything. So I
Animals too, right?
Yeah, animals too. Yeah. I I I feel that, and also that the kind of like I was raised around alcohol. I was come from a culture of like UK is just one massive culture of alcohol, same as Europe, a lot of Europe. It's just in the ancestry, it's in your blood, like alcohol becomes part of everyday life. And I never liked it as a kid. It smelled horrible to me. I didn't like the taste of it, but I did it because everybody else did it. You're weird if you don't and you don't fit in. So I did it, and then, that got a hold of me, and then I realized, like, I don't wanna do that. Like, I don't wanna do that to, uh, be social. I can be social without it, right? So, um, but so what I've done is I've methodically conquered all my addictions. That was one part of my path is, and addictions are also to people. It's not just alcohol or drugs. Can be addicted to someone, or can be addicted to money or power, right?
Mhm.
So my personal journey is to eliminate all my addictions. So I certainly don't want to be around addicted people. I want to be around them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do work with people who have addictions and stuff, but I don't live. I live in nature. I find much more uh, comfort in nature. Yeah. And I'm not ruling everyone out. I mean, I'd love to have a community. I mean, right now I'm looking for someone who wants to be here. And one of the stipulations is no drugs or alcohol. And that eliminates a lot of people. Like even marijuana. I don't want to be around a stoner. I've been there, done it. I used to smoke weed for years and years and years. I don't want to be around that. Like, I lost my keys. Where are they? In my car. They're in there, like this
Waste
amnesia.
of time.
Yeah, it's great feeling stoned, but what is it? There's no participation in life. It's a comfort place that you don't really grow from. And I was there, and it wasn't till I stopped 2009. I stopped drinking, and that I wasn't drinking a lot, but consistently I was drinking. And best thing I ever did, and I have never gone back. Never wanted it, but it's also uh, what's the word? Well, it it makes me it's put me much more in a place where I can move forward with what I want to do. So essentially what I want to do, I want to help people and animals and horses, and that's really what I do is help people.
You seem to be someone who, if someone, if you want to learn something, you really go all in. Like you have a lot of drive, it seems to me. Like you just sort of skip over like, "Oh yeah, I went here and then I learned this and I learned that." And to me, I'm like that learning that part, you just sort of like, "Oh yeah, this is what you do." But to me, that's the hard part because it's hard for me to not get discouraged or hard to understand what to do next or, so I mean, that just probably is who you are. You probably that's always been who you are, but are there moments where you really had to, I mean, you probably had to push yourself. I mean, you had to work hard and you didn't want to work hard necessarily. But like sometimes when I try something, I'm like, oh, this doesn't work. But you seem to be someone who it's like it works because you do it right, and you don't give up.
Well, I mean, it's more. I mean, like I said, that bodybuilding path, was a dead end kind of thing. Like it wasn't going anywhere. It was just, you know, it wasn't healthy, you know, and it was consuming a lot of my energy, and it was all basically based on the external body, what you look like, right? So I did a 180, and it's like now it's internal. It's like what's going on the inside and the spiritual aspect. Like I got connected spiritually, and I mean, there's a whole story about that, but I don't want to get into that. But um, I mean, I never went to. I had a regular education, but I dropped out really early, and I was basically kicked out of all my classes. I mean, when I was
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was kicked out of all the classes. I didn't even go to school really, and
Wow.
so I just learned things that interested me, and the healing really interested me. Um, I w I knew I was kinda good at touching and, like, I knew I was good at that because I could tell with my cats and animals that they liked it when I touched them.
Uh-huh.
And, then a friend of mine in Topanga, she talked about how she worked on this person and how she touched her back, and she could tell that this woman was holding a lot of pain in there, and, when she asked her about it, her son had died in a motorcycle accident. And she was able to release the grief, because she was holding it in, right? But my friend could tell just by touching the back where the heart chakra is, like the other side of it, which is usually past things that's happened, right? The past, the back represents the past.
Oh, okay.
And so she told me about that, and I was really fascinated. And I thought, how incredible that is, that you can get that information just through touch and you can actually help someone, and that
Mhm.
all this information is in the body. So she told me about the polarity school because she was a teacher there. So that's how I went got into that. And and then I got into the family constellation work, which I'm doing since 2008 now, and I'm
Oh,
teaching it.
wow.
And now my thing this year is I'm learning about frequencies, frequency healing, and I'm actually training to be a certified frequency trainer. And I've been doing that because you can do that for animals. And then that led me to LBA, which is the live blood analysis. And I'm training for that. And it's an online course. And I've got a microscope. It's an expensive microscope where you can look at the blood. And my interest is like with if trauma affects blood, because if someone has a trauma, their blood is affected. You can see it in the shape of the cells. Okay. Because the
Wow.
red blood cells are supposed to look all the same size. They're supposed to be individuated. And if they're not, there's something going on. Okay. And there's all different shapes that the blood can take on. Okay. And some of them is to do with trauma. Okay. So I thought, well, if someone's blood can change through trauma, then obviously it can change through healing. Okay. So I wanted to see before and after, before I do the frequencies, before I do the horse constellation. Let's look at the blood after. That was my interest in that. But I tell you, Cindy, it's learning a whole new language because like some of the words I don't even know how to pronounce them. So it's requiring a lot of focus and time for me to figure out all these medical terms because it's all laid out in words that I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Anyway, but and so it's not easy, but I'm determined to learn it. I'm a beginner. I'm also just turned 60, 60. I'm 61. I'm going to be 62 next year. And but I um feel this fresh energy around it. Like I want to um, show evidence of like, look, I can show you how this affected your blood. Even though someone may feel that, oh, that was nothing. No, this was huge. It's changed the shape of your blood cells. Oh, now they're separating because if the blood cells are all clustered together, they can't get the light, they can't get the electricity, they can't function properly like they need to because they have little discs where they transport nutrients to the organs and they take out the waste, right? So there's like a little disc in there. And if they can't do that, then you're gonna be ill, basically. You're gonna be sick,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so also it showed because I'm really into eating well, and when people come here, I feed them from food that I grow and that I prepare. Right? And a lot of people that I see, they don't even know how to cook. They don't even know how to make themselves something that's gonna be good for them, like medicinal in a way, right?
Mhm.
They don't even know that. So I can show them, look, here I'm gonna make some tea. I pick from the lemon verbena bush, put it in hot water. Here's your tea, and they love it. They're like, wow, this tastes so good. I'm like, yeah, 'cause it's fresh, and I grew it. And you can too. You can grow it, and you can grow it on your in your kitchen inside if you don't have a garden. I mean, all this stuff, and it's easy and simple, but um, so I'm into that. I'm into showing people, and that's what the blood does. The blood shows your pH balance. If your pH balance is off, you're gonna have a toxic environment, like a fish tank, right? If the fish tank, if the water in the fish tank is the wrong pH balance, then the fish will be ill and maybe
Mhm.
they die. It's the same for us. So things like, well, obviously, vegetables, fresh vegetables are alkaline. Cabbage is alkaline. Cabbage is one of the highest alkaline foods. So if you're
Oh,
eating coleslaw, which I eat a lot, I make it myself, you're gonna be you're gonna have an alkaline balance. They say 80% alkaline, 20% acidic, but most people are acidic because coffee,
Yeah.
meat, dairy is highly acidic. Alcohol is all acidic. Anyway, so I can show it. I can help people from all different places,
Mhm.
physically, physiologically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally,
So
like
it's almost like if you had your dream life, would you, like, just have someone come up and you just feed them, show them how like, is that something that
I mean,
you're
that's what I do anyway. That's what
that's
I
what
do.
yeah,
I mean,
and is that,
everybody
like, one of your favorite things, right?
well, I won't say it's like my favorite thing.
Oh, okay. What's your favorite thing to do?
Uh, what's my favorite thing to do? I like playing music. I like, being around creative people. I like, creating things. Like, I like building things. I've learned how to use power tools. Made I made I made these cupboards in here. I'm doing the whole inside of here. I don't know if you can see those slats. I put insulation in, that's what the silver is, and then I'm gonna put those
Oh.
slats.
Oh,
I
did
know
you
how to do
build?
that.
Did you build your
Yeah,
house?
I learned how to do it. I didn't build it, but I learned how to, use power tools. So once you learn how to do that, you can pretty much make anything.
How did you learn how to do power tools yourself?
I
YouTube?
had an intern who showed me, and
Oh,
she
okay.
and her husband had renovated a house in Detroit that they bought for very little money, and they renovated, and it's all off grid in the middle of Detroit, and they took 5 years, and,
Kidding.
no, and they
Wow.
sold it to someone who would keep it like that, but for like, way more than they paid for it, but also the amount of work they put into it.
Yeah,
But if you're off grid, you have to use power tools that are run by battery, right?
yeah.
So I got gifted a beautiful kit that is all battery operated, and she said with that you can renovate a house. You can do anything with that. What you have, it's true. You just have to
Wow.
know how to use it. So from that, so she showed me how to use the tools, and then you just watch YouTube videos. I mean, it's all there. It's all so many resources now. You just have to type it in. How do I build a closet? How do I build a table?